Hey, what's up, good people? It's Goldie here with Loxitude, and I'm coming on today just to speak very briefly about thinning locks. Now, you know, if you've been following my page, I've talked a lot about thinning locks and what happens when you need to combine locks. And it's a hot topic because some people have a lot of heartburn about combining locks. I still believe you need to get over it. If your locks need to be combined, combine them. But there is a step to consider before you get to combining. If your loctician is versed on this and is willing to consider other alternatives, and that is switching up your locking pattern. Now, the natural progression of locks is to condense as they mature, okay? Sometimes we notice that, okay, the condensing is doing what it's supposed to do, but maybe around the edges, which is typically where we see a lot of thinning, and that's for many reasons, that's where we start to pay attention. Now, many reasons contribute to thinning, right? We talked about the fact that it could be hormonal or metabolic issues. It could be stress. It could be hereditary, genetic type things, or it could be external environmental issues like overstyling, too much excess tension, poor technique of the actual technician or practitioner who's working in your hair. Many things can contribute to thinning locks. But before you get to a point where you feel like, oh, we don't have a choice, we have to combine, if you're watching things closely and you see changes, if you know that you're using a really tight locking pattern, you could reduce the tension on the locking pattern. Now, I don't speak on things that I don't know or that I don't have personal experience with without putting a disclaimer out there and stating such. In this instance, I know very much that this works because I personally switched my locking pattern. My consultant at the time did not believe that my locking pattern needed to be switched. I felt that it did because I know that thinning is something that runs in my family, and I was just noticing with me having my Kunta Kinte hair, those locks were getting really, really tiny as they were maturing and condensing. So I wanted to loosen up on the tension because as your locks mature, you don't need to have that restriction on your hair because you're not as worried about the hair unraveling and slipping. So we couldn't agree on that. It wasn't a negative thing, but I took it upon myself when I retightened my own hair to switch myself to a looser locking pattern. I've been happy ever since. Now, me being a loctician, I understood what I was doing and why I was doing it, but I'm just saying this is to open up the communication with your practitioner. If you guys are having conversations about the fact that your locks are thinning and you're noticing that things are just getting super duper skinny, because they'll eventually get skinny enough where they'll just start snapping off, okay? Which is why you see so many of us as consultants, as lock specialists, that will talk about sizing and the fact that you don't need all these little itty bitty locks in your hair because we know what happens in the process when they start to mature. So I'm not saying this is going to be the solution for your particular thinning issue, but it is worth a conversation with your practitioner if you are noticing changes in your hair, because you cannot continue to do the same thing, right, over and over and expect a different result. So the mark of a good practitioner in any business, in any skill set, is to make adjustments when you see something is not working. So if your person is not willing to have the conversation, explain the pros and cons of switching, then that's something for you to deal with as a client. But when you're trying to troubleshoot and find solutions, nothing should be off the table in terms of discussing and figuring out what's the best plan for you, because after all, it is a partnership, right? So I'm just putting this out here. My experience has been such that it does work if you catch it early enough and understand that some thinning issues are beyond our control. So we may be able to slow down the process and we may be able to combat a little bit of it, but eventually if your hair is thinning and it's because of metabolic issues and things like that, or aging, it just may not be anything you can do. You can slow it down a little bit, but eventually you may have to combine locks. But consider all your options because, like I said before, combining locks should be the absolute last resort. And hopefully you're troubleshooting before it gets to that point. So good luck. So here we have my very first client from December 2015, and I'm just demonstrating. This is 7 weeks of new growth. She's a little overdue because I was traveling, but she comes in faithfully every 6 weeks. We went a week over, lots of new growth, but I'm just demonstrating that when she first started out, she had that slick Rick hair. So towards the tips of her hair are her 4-point rotations, but over time, I switched her over to a 3-point. Now she's had a major haircut since then, so most of this is a 3-point. But over the years, we have had to do some combining because her hair really did condense quite a bit, and she's got a lot of stress, so we've been contending with that. But the adjustments have kept her hair healthy with minimal need for combining. Now, I didn't say this, but sometimes cutting excess length can be a solution for thinning hair as well. I'm just the messenger. And as always, if you found this information helpful, be sure to like, comment, share, and follow to show your support. Thanks for watching.